All right, so just because I know Heather's been here all day, call the meeting order 6:30, ask for acceptance of the minutes for May 4th, 20, but Denise had a personal emergency, so she won't be here. She just texted me a few minutes ago. Acceptance of the minutes for the regular May 4th, 2023 meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Llewellyn, seconded by Bonnie Reynolds. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. You're up.
All right, awesome. Good evening, everyone. I'm really happy to be here to talk to you about this program. Okay, so as you visualize AIP, I want you to visualize an alternative instructional program. I want you to keep in mind the target population. So when the design of AIP came to fruition, it was based.
And this, just for those who don't know, this is what's happening at Honey Spot School.
Sorry, I assumed you guys knew that. So this is the program. Currently, we have an out-of-district placement using Honey Spot. We were not able to come up with a mutually agreed upon contract for them, so they're going to go somewhere else. And we're going to put some programs into Honey Spot. Okay, so I'm going to give you a description of those right now. The target population we want to service is the population that we have heard most from our communities, from our Board of Ed, and from our principals and teachers. We want to target students that are at risk. And when I use the term at risk, I'm talking about students that are struggling behaviorally and students that are struggling with absenteeism. As we progress through the presentation, I'm going to talk about what we're aiming to address. I'm going to give you the overview of the program design. I'm going to talk about the goals and the outcomes. We're going to talk about the projected staff we need in order to run the program, and we're going to talk about the timeline, okay? The Alternative Instructional Placement, AIP, is going to house 4 basic programs. We're going to have an expulsion and OSS program there. We're going to have a program, Project Uplift, there. The Project Uplift works directly with students and the community to deter violence, school avoidance, and substance abuse are their target populations. Homebound tutoring, and then we're also going to have continuing education run out of that building. I'm going to start with the first square, the expulsion and the OSS, so you can understand the need and where it came from. We're going to start basically with giving you a quick brief of the reason why we need this. So currently in Stratford, we have 4 students that have been expelled and 2 additional students that were put up for expulsion but ended up in their out-of-district placement. Part of the reason for that is because when we expel students, the laws have changed. When we expel students, we are expected as a district to provide an educational program to any expelled student that is under the age of 16. We also have to provide an educational program for any student that is between the ages of 16 and 18, and this is their first expulsion. Okay? And then, if you are a student who happens to also be a student with an exceptionality in an IEP, we need to provide an alternative educational placement no matter what until you are age 22. Right now, we used to do this. We used to have a program, and students often would have gone to Alpha when they were expelled, but Alpha was never part of a school. When you're expelled, you can't be in a school. Now Alpha is in Stratford High School, so we cannot send students there when they are expelled because it is part of a school campus and that would violate expulsion laws, okay? That's why Honey Spot is not a school. It's not a school that we've approved with the state. It is a building, a municipal building in which we can house a program. In addition to those students, we don't have a huge of students that have been expelled. We're between 4 and 6 every year for the past 5 years. What we do have is a large amount of students that have received 10-day out-of-school suspensions. When a student receives a 10-day out-of-school suspension, it also counts as an absence. When you look at our students, this is just our secondary students, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th. We've had 60 students that have received at least one 10-day out-of-school suspension, 10 like in a row, not just you got one this week and one next week, 10 days straight out of school. That equals 600 absences. As you guys know, and I'm sure you've heard and read, part of our Alliance designation is due to our chronic absenteeism. So there is a large population of students that are racking up those absences from suspensions. In addition to racking up the absences from suspensions, the students are also getting into trouble while they are suspended because they are home, their parents are leaving to go to work, and they are getting involved in stuff within the community they should not be. Okay? We need to revamp our thinking. So now, with the AIP program, students who get 10-day out-of-school suspensions will now get a suspension in the AIP program. Initially, what's going to happen? We're going to have some students that are going to not show up. Well, because we know that, we're going to position some mental health professionals there that are going to go do a nice home visit, and transportation will pick those students up and bring them to AIP. You don't get to get out of AIP. We're going to get our parents on board and help them understand we do not want the kids sitting at home. It's not appropriate, it's not the best place for them, and it's not keeping them out of trouble, it's not educating them. When we were thinking about this number, we wanted to make sure that we recommended the right number of staff for the program. So we did the graph a different way. We looked at the graph to see how many students each month were getting 10-day out-of-school suspensions, to make sure that there was never a time where we needed more than just one teacher and one tutor, because that's the most financially and fiscally appropriate method we could do, would be to shift one tutor and one teacher over there to cover these students. It would be tight in May, okay, but every other month is reasonable. So we have to look at why was May so high with 18. But even 18, you can do it.
Can I ask you one question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You saw from 7th to 12th on that last graph you showed.
Yep.
Did you put all these kids in the same building? In the same class?
7th to 12th, yes, no one below 7th. But we'll have 2 staff members and 3 mental health professionals. I'm getting there, so you can see how they can be spread out and split up.
I'm just saying the discrepancy from 12th grade to 7th grade is...
It's big. It is. And as you can see, we don't have, when you go back one, we had quite a few 7th graders get a 10-day suspension. Okay? 7th is first. It's right up there with the 10th, 11th, and 12th. Not as many 8th and 9th graders. All right, and that does change each year, but let me explain to you how they're going to be split up. So they will not all be in the same room. Okay? So, now we've looked at the number of students that we have for OSS. We've looked at the number of students that are expelled. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about Project Uplift. Okay? Project Uplift is a grant that we got this year. It's a $2.5–3 million grant that we received to provide specific support using mental health professionals for students that are having behavioral struggles, having struggles with attendance, and having struggles with substance abuse. We hired 3 mental health professionals, and since we opened Project Uplift in February, we've had 32 referrals to Project Uplift, 2 successful completions of the program with no reoccurring event. 23 of those referrals came from secondary principals, and 9 referrals came from our community partners. Stratford Police Department did referrals for us, and Stratford Community Service can refer to us. Okay, these referrals came for chronic absenteeism, substance abuse, and violent infractions. Okay, a lot of the students that were referred are students who are receiving those 10-day out-of-school suspensions. So we are going to take our 3 Project Uplift staff that are currently being housed in the fishbowl in Stratford High School that used to be the career center. It's all glass all around it. We're taking all 3 of those: social worker, psychologist, school counselor. They're going over to AIP. Okay, they are going to be directly working with our students that are suspended, our students that are expelled, with the teacher and a tutor. So you're going to have climate specialist or SRO, some kind of authority figure will be there. You're going to have a teacher, a tutor, and 3 mental health professionals. Okay? They have the front part when you walk into that building, across the front has 2 separate classrooms and 3 small offices. The students will be split up using the tutor, who can be alone with students, the teacher, who can be alone with students, the climate specialist, and the 3 mental health professionals, to make sure everybody is split age appropriate and receiving the work that they need. All the work will be sent electronically, and we have a Chromebook cart ready to be there with the kids. So even if they showed up and didn't have their Chromebooks, we have one for you. You're going to work, the teachers are going to be there to help you work, and the mental health professionals are going to be there to help support your transition back to your school. The idea behind Project Uplift being there, a lot of our students will get suspended, go right back to school, and get suspended again. They're going to be that bridge about making a plan on how do you go back to your school and not have that happen again. Okay? And they're going to build that bridge with the kids, and they may even, for some of the kids, have to go back the first day with them. They may meet them at the school with the principal, help them have that conversation, that plan, show what's going to happen, talk about what they're going to do differently the next time, and we're going to see if we can have an impact on not having students continue to receive the same suspensions. we've never had our mental health professionals really take part in that process. And I think this is going to be a very, very effective change. In addition to that, Project Uplift is working with a lot of our chronically absent students. Unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, our homebound tutoring went virtual. And then when we came back, because it was convenient, we kept it virtual. And it is convenient, but the kids are not participating, they're not getting the kind of education they should be getting, and it now is becoming something that's impacting our scores, impacting our test taking, and impacting the kids never want to return. They don't want to walk back in. So during the pandemic, tutoring went virtual, and when the in-person sessions were offered, they were offered at the public library. This system and model is not effective for student academic improvement and re-engaging students in the community. With the support of the mental health professionals, we'll be able to position our homebound tutoring to be in person and increase accountability. We'll still have a small subgroup that requires virtual tutoring due to medical reasons. But other than that group, we'll be able to go down the other part of the front hallway with tutoring. So we'll be able to have our tutors available. We'll be able to have homebound tutoring during the day, which is really great for some parents, because parents, they get a little frustrated when their kid's on homebound tutoring and the tutoring can't start till 5 p.m. Because we don't have a place, we don't have a location, we don't have the tutor to be available for right then. So now we're going to set it up so we can have them available during the day. So in addition to supporting students with OSS and expulsion, Project Uplift, their mental health, their work with our chronically absent students, their work with our students that are having substance abuse, and their work with our students that are having violent infractions, we're going to have our homebound tutoring students there, and we also believe it's a good time for us to move continuing education over there. Right now, continuing education is sandwiched in Birdseye, and they can't really fit. He had over 328 adults participating this year in continuing education, and they just didn't have the space. There's only 8 usable classrooms, and he really needs at least 12. And so, in order for him to run an effective program. So this allows for continuing ed to really, and that's the highest he's ever been. He said, honestly, he's mostly at 300 typically. So I dropped it down to 300 for the projected year. But it will be a good opportunity for him to come in, because just as our other kids are leaving, they're coming in and getting set up, and the building continues to get used in an appropriate fashion. And we can actually have our continuing education grow a little instead of feeling squished where they are, okay? So we're hoping for next year. We're hoping to have less than 60 kids get 10-day OSSs, but the likelihood is we'll probably still have right around that number. Expulsions have been the same, between 3 and 6 every year. Project Uplift wants to move up to 60 referrals. We started mid-year this year and got to 32. We should have no problem getting to 60 and utilizing that space for our chronically absent students and getting them back in and engaged. Homebound tutoring always has between 25 and 30. This year, because it's been convenient, we've crawled up to 28. So we want to get that back down, 38. We want to get that back down to 25 to 30. Continuing education can use the space, thus saying our community will be using the space with about 554 people throughout
Can I ask
the
another
day.
question, please?
You can ask any questions
Is
you
there
want.
any parent involvement why you have these kids keep repeating and repeating and repeating, getting expulsion? Isn't there any
So yes, I'm
put on
going
the parents to say, if you don't participate, we can't educate your children?
Well, we
Somewhere
have to
parents gotta step
educate
in
your
and help.
children. So remember, the law is I have to educate your children. Even if Mr. Henrik's a parent who doesn't want to be involved, I still have to educate his children. It's the law.
Should I educate him first?
I will, any day.
No, I mean,
So-
seriously,
That's not
I
a
mean,
joke.
no, but I'm serious, I mean, the parents
should happen.
the parents aren't involved. This is just continue. What do you don't
So
succeed?
that's why we're hoping the involvement, we're hoping that adding that extra step of having mental health professionals who are willing to go do a home visit, because let's face it, during the day, your principals don't have time to get in a car and show up to the kid who didn't come in for ISS, right? They're trying to run their building. So now when you don't show up to OSS, they're gonna notify Project Uplift. Project Uplift's gonna call your home, your parent, and say, you are supposed to be here, getting educated. We want you to be here. We're gonna head out to your house for a home visit. Police department's been great working with us. They'll meet us there. We have transportation, we have drivers, so the driver will come up, pick the kid up, and get them into school. We've got to make that extra effort to help the parents know we're holding them accountable, and the students need to be accountable, because otherwise they want to stay home. There's no accountability when you're staying there. Let me go through these goals, then I'm going to take another question, okay? So we are looking at program goals, and then how are we going to measure our program to show success, okay? So the goals. We want to enhance academic and behavioral supports for secondary students. We want a practical response to chronic absenteeism. We want to enhance mental health support so that students can transition back to their school communities without incident. And we want to align with our strategic operating plan. By starting this program up at the Honey Spot building, we are building opportunities for stronger relationships with families because we're going to have a much more intimate community to get those families involved and say you need to be involved. Your child is struggling, we need you involved, we're coming out to you, please work with us. Okay? We're going to provide strategies for students to assist with resolving conflict. So instead of just saying you got in trouble, you served your 10 days, go back to school, now we're going to work with you to make sure that you learn how to resolve that conflict. And we're going to provide an equitable and inclusive experience for all of our students. Okay? How are we going to measure that? Well, we're going to measure that a couple different ways. We should see a reduction and repeat in serious behaviors. The layer of mental health support and the re-entry plans from students receiving OSS are going to support that outcome. We want to see a reduction in chronic absenteeism. 600 absences came from 10-day out-of-school suspensions. If I can get you in front of a teacher, you are no longer absent, and we should see a reduction in that chronic absenteeism. And we want to get students reconnected that are stuck on homebound and afraid to come back, so that also gives us an opportunity to get students back into the buildings. And then the growth in academic performance, because we're actually providing in-person learning. When you were absent 600 days, it's not just that you made Stratford chronically absent because you were absent, it's that you didn't get educated. So when you sit down to take your test, your state test, when you sit down to try to participate, you have missed a large amount of your education. So we want to make sure we are also closing that gap. This is what we need to run it. Okay, we need a teacher. We're going to shift one teacher over. We're going to shift one of our tutors over. There is a secretary that works for continuing education half day, and then we have a sub-secretary in the morning. So we're going to have one secretary there because it is important that people get buzzed in appropriately, and we thought about safety and the cameras and everything that they're going through. So we are going to have a secretary come over. Originally, we're looking at 2 climate specialists. One of the board members suggested we maybe look at an SRO in place of 2 climate specialists. That's a possibility that we can continue to discuss, but we do want to have people there in order to support and service the students. And the Project Uplift staff, there are 3 of them. A psychologist who can test, a social worker who can provide the needed counseling, and a school counselor who can help make plans and help create direction for students so that they have something to work for. So we have those 3 mental health professionals. And this is essentially our timeline. We presented it to the board, okay? And now we are going to be spending our summer painting the ceilings, network cabling, hardware replacements, some furniture, and I think you guys in your little packets or in your emails you received some breakdowns where we actually had some money and some estimates in there now, Mike. And then we are going to launch and monitor the AIP program in the fall, and then I'm going to come back and report on the impact we had. Did we have an impact on those absences? Did we have an impact on students' reoccurring effects? I'm going to be able to come back and say, remember this chart I showed you? Now this is what you're looking at. And that really is the overarching goal, is to have an impact on a population of students that are really at risk for us right now. So now, open up for your questions. What do you got?
It's a brilliant program, and it's one that lots of school systems have been looking for if it's effective. Because the chronic absenteeism is a real problem, especially after the pandemic, as you said. There was a time when a certain number of absences for a child would trigger a DCF referral. Is that still in place? No.
So that is just no longer a law. However, a certain amount of absences does trigger a failure for you at the secondary level.
So DCF isn't involved at all with
so you can,
working with parents of the children that
you can still make referrals to DCF. There's no hard cutoff. You can make a referral for educational neglect if a student is not attending. But I will say, I think that DCF is not picking those up as often for the secondary students.
So when these kids are not making it and they're failing, do they automatically get pushed up to the next year?
No.
They stay where they belong? Okay.
And so I wanted to have this board just come out, and she made this presentation to us we had a special meeting on Monday, and just because we're planning, that's kind of part of what we do. This is a program going into existing building, maybe yes, maybe no, but doesn't necessarily fall under our purview, but wanted to make everybody aware so we knew what was happening within the spaces in the Stratford school system. So as she said, we had an outside company in that school taking care of some of this. It didn't work out you know, we were supposed to have a financial benefit, and because of the way it worked, it didn't, so they ended the contract and now are moving into this, but, and Rich can maybe talk after about just some of the costs
Yeah.
and expenses and where the money's coming from.
And we did put a lot of thought into which target group, because we do have a lot of groups we could have targeted for programs within there. But this target group seems to be the target group that's on everyone's radar. And I think that we need to make an impact here, and we have an opportunity to do so. It's gonna be a lot of hard work in the beginning.
It's a 3-year grant.
Project Uplift is a 3-year grant that you can, if you show that you met the limits of the STOP grant, we can continue to get year after year after year. But we have to show that we're making an impact in our school in those 3 buckets. So we need to reduce the number of violent acts, we need to reduce the number of students with substance abuse, and we need to reduce the chronic absenteeism.
And that's coming from the State Department?
That's a federal grant. It's a federal STOP grant.
Heather, real quick, do these rooms need to meet ed specs or need to meet any sort of state standards for housing students?
So it has to meet program standards. There's already a program in there for the state that's been approved, so it's an approved facility for a program.
Okay, so it's not as technically complicated as
It's
some
not
of
as
the other
technically
bills.
complicated. If you guys wanted to make that a school again, then yes, you would need to, but we don't want it to be a school because then we can't put the population we're talking about there.
Exactly. So as part of the AIP program, are there any behavioral intervention / isolation rooms
Yes.
similar to what are in the other buildings?
Yes,
So those will be put in over the
they're
summer?
already in.
They're already there.
Yeah, they've already got 3
Can I ask
of them.
another, are there that many violent crimes here in the schools?
I don't know what you're asking
Well,
exactly.
you're saying that, you know, that
So we need to reduce the number, there's a lot of fights, yes. We have a decent number of physical altercations. So yeah, and the town we get those referrals from the town as well. So if a student gets in trouble in town and say uses a knife or a weapon, those come to us and you still receive a consequence. Even though you didn't do it in our building, you did it in the town.
There's recently a big fight over at Blue Jays, the market.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it was Benel kids. I'm told there were 5 arrests, but it was off school grounds. So in a sense, I was glad there were some arrests because I think these kids need to know that there's some repercussions for their actions.
oh, yeah,
But
exactly.
I'm guessing those are some of the
They
things you
get
get
sent to
referrals
us.
to.
Yeah, so we still get those referrals and we still have to make sure we're working with the students regardless of, the school system itself is part of your town. So we have to
Well, I
work
realize it,
in.
I didn't realize that if they're off grounds, they come to you.
Yes, they still
So you're
do.
not only in education, you're a cop.
Somewhat, yeah.
You are, I mean-
And there's been times where here, you would get those and they ended up being decently, you would have thought it might have been something fun, but it wasn't. The pellet guns at Halloween, you come in there and we have students that receive now 10-day suspensions and possibly go up for expulsion because you used an illegal weapon within the town. And those are rules that still come into the school that we still need to follow. But we still need to educate you at the same time because you're still a kid. And we are obligated to provide you with that education. So I think this is a good happy medium.
So
for us to
Mike, when
work
you're
on.
saying there was that fight up there in Moodridge, the kids are off ground, and the parents come and say, why is this a school problem, because they're not in school, and we're gonna put them over there. I mean, you must get some feedback on that, right? I mean,
I just heard through
Oh, okay.
through back channels,
yeah,
but.
I never heard of it, so that's why I'm asking
Yeah,
this.
so if school was over, it was after the school day, the kids left the school grounds, went over to the market
Yeah.
and did their thing. And there was enough of a crowd that the neighbors called, police came, there were some
I
arrests.
understand that, but I'm just saying, looking at the parent side of it, say, okay, they got in a fight,
Yeah.
why is it, my kid have to come get a 10-day suspension from
We
school?
wouldn't know it unless they got arrested. So when you get arrested, we get those reports come to us because,
Okay, it's still
especially
them
in
getting
this
arrested
day-
off the school grounds and everything.
yeah. But it
Parents
comes
saying,
into school.
why are my kid getting suspended from school when this is not on school property?
Because
I'm just
it
asking.
comes into the school.
Okay?
So people take videos, they show the videos in the school, the 2 kids that fought end up in the same school together, and it just comes into the school. So it is part of the process. And again, we want the kids to be in front of someone when they're educated, so we have to look at our whole perspective and say, how can we do this better? And I think this is how we can do it better. We can make sure that they're educated. Did you have a question?
Yeah, one last question. Is having this AIP program put in place, is it gonna give you more kind of spots and opportunities to place kids to help some of the population / crowding issues at the secondary school level? Like, are there kids that are, given one last chance at Flood or at Worcester or Brunel or Stratford High because there is no quote-unquote other option, and now this becomes another option before like an expulsion or an outplacement has to happen?
So not in this first year, right? Because this is for students that are getting expelled. So if a student is behaving in a way that requires an expulsion, they would have this program. If you need a 10-day suspension, you would have this program. If you are chronically absent and not showing up to school, the Project Uplift staff may bring you back there first, right? Because obviously something's not working with you getting into your building. And as long as we get you back into a building and start getting you educated in the program, we can work your way back in. But it's not, we want to make sure we stay away from inequities of making something a place in which we are going to just dump students, right? That's not the idea behind this right now. Could I see this expanding to helping more at-risk students? Absolutely. But for next year, the focus is going to be working on our 10-day out-of-school suspensions, our expulsions, and working with our population of students that's chronically absent.
And Ms. Borges and Ms. Daniels, our new assistant superintendent, recently presented to us the new discipline matrix, and which is going to be implemented across the board. There's no room for variances. But one of the big parts of that, and to your point, one of the big parts was parental involvement.
Yes.
Sign off.
That's my first question. If you don't get the parents involved,
Yeah.
You got to get them involved.
yeah, otherwise you lose.
Yeah.
But that was a big part of, that was one of the initial parts that I took from that presentation about this, but was making sure the parents are.
And I think they'll work, well together. We're going to have that rolled out to the parents. We're going to work with the parents on that. And at the same time, sometimes you just got to meet parents where they're at. And now you have some staff who can just drive out to their houses and meet them where they're at and say, we need you to be involved. We need you to be part of this solution. We care. Just showing up face to face and being there, I think is going to hopefully help us work together to make sure that that child does not have another behavior that's going to cause another 10-day out-of-school suspension. So that's the goal. And I'm hoping when I see you in the spring, I can come in and say, you guys, look at this. We reduced the numbers down here. We improved our chronic absenteeism. Project Uplift was extremely busy. We met our quota for the STOP grant. I want to be able to come and share all of those positive things, and that this is the outcome. In order to get there, Rich has a lot of work to do. Because we need to make, although we don't have to meet the specs like you were asking, the building still has to be appropriate. And so there are definitely some modifications we need to make to the building.
That was going to be my last remaining question was, is the building fit to accommodate, you're talking about going to 12 classrooms. Is that just for continuing education, or is that this program and then that program by night?
You need tutoring during the day, so basically downstairs we'll use during the day. Okay? And then night we'll use both.
Okay.
But we'll use the classrooms downstairs for the tutoring, for the AIP program, to split up the age groups, the offices, all of that will be the first floor. But continuing ed will need both floors.
Yeah, so they shared with that when they were at Worcester, with the school kids, and then they came in at night.
And I feel like what this program is tailored for, there's going to be no sort of boomerang effect of someone going, oh, I bet you wish you still had center school. Because center school would not have been an appropriate building for this program
absolutely.
at all.
No.
And it was there.
I know.
And then from there it went to
Yeah.
Birdseye. To Honey Spot.
Oh, they've been bounced around a lot. They haven't really ever had a place in which, they were at Stratford High, they were at Worcester, they were bounced all over the place. And I think, I think it'll be nice for them to know that there's enough classrooms for them to be able to run everything they want to run. And right now, they do house up to age 22 there, so it is, fitting big kids in that building without a problem. But we do need to do some work with the IT. So Matt Rivers has some plans to make sure that we have appropriate Wi-Fi, network equipment, and then some smart boards need to be put in and those kind of things. And then Rich has to be able to paint and put some drop ceilings in. There's nothing huge. A lot of this is much more cosmetic with the exception of the Wi-Fi, because we unfortunately use that all the time. We need it, so we have to use that. So those are the breakdowns.
And do you know what the total classroom is in Honey Spot? Classroom count?
I believe there's 14 total classrooms, and then there's some very large offices.
Okay. They can be used as classrooms?
There's really big space, plus the portable. Portable has its own bathroom. And we put that in when AIP was there.
Mhm.
So there was a portable at the end.
And there's a gym.
Yeah.
And so the gym, will the gym be utilized for,
Yeah, we'll definitely be using the gym during the day.
as a gym class?
Yeah, we need to move, they need to get up, they need to be doing those things. And then even currently, Jim Nova uses that large cafeteria in Birdseye for multiple classes at the same time. So I would assume he would also be using that space for, different art classes and different classes that need larger space for the people that come to be able to take them.
And then speaking of the cafeteria, is that,
So, there is a little setup within there. However, I think because we're not going to be dealing with a massive number of people during the day, our numbers really shouldn't be above 45 at any one time, I would hope, right? Because we don't want that many students in trouble with that many. We're going to probably have the lunches delivered like we do for Alpha. So currently Alpha's lunches get delivered, the kids' lunches will be delivered. However, we would like to eventually fix it up a little bit so that there's opportunities for cooking and there's opportunities. And I know that the stove, they do use the stove now that's there, it's just really old.
It's a very limited space.
Yeah,
and the free breakfast,
Same.
is that gonna be mandated to be
yep,
part
it
of
gets
it?
delivered.
Okay.
Yep, so we'll use the same system we have in place currently with Alpha. They get their breakfasts and lunches delivered to the students. But I do know that Jim does use some cooking. There are some cooking classes, so they will utilize that stove. It's a very workable stove. Spire uses it now. It's just really old. If you looked at it, you'd be like, huh. But sometimes the old stuff's built tougher. It doesn't break.
Sometimes the old stuff's easier to repair.
Yeah, over and over.
Yeah, yeah.
We thought Honey Spot would be used this way eventually. My children went to kindergarten at Honey
did?
Spot, yes.
So does anybody have any more questions for Ms. Borges, or?
Just one I can talk to you later about. Just interested in behavioral interventions you're going to use in the space, but let's not take the time here.
Okay. We can definitely talk about that. And Project Uplift has actually brought in a couple different behavior intervention strategies that seem to be working.
And if you wouldn't mind, I know we had a paper copy of it, can you forward it to Teresa so she can?
Yeah. The presentation?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Okay,
No
thanks.
problem.
Just so everybody has a paper copy of it, or?
Teresa, you have that, right?
I'll get it out to everyone. In fact, I can send it out tonight when I go back.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Do you guys have anything else for
Thank
me?
you.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate your time, thanks for.
Of course,
Thanks for
of
sticking
course.
around.
See you later, Rich.
See you.
Now it's Rich's
Okay.
turn.
So, just before we even start, I just want to say, the header up there says estimated cost. These are estimated, there's nothing set in stone on these prices right now. These were prices that we've been getting, but they're not our final numbers. So if we start at the top with the network wiring, Mercury Group does a lot of work with the town also, but they're on state contract. They did all the camera wiring for all our cameras that we had the grant for the two schools at Nichols and Johnson. And they do great work. The network to be determined is we're out to bid on that. And the bid doesn't close till the 13th next week. So we're kind of guesstimating, Matt was guesstimating on what he thought it would be. But again, these prices are not set in stone. The security cameras by Mercury for the $123,000. Again, smartboards, PCs, screens, printers is IT. I can't speak to those numbers personally, but the wiring and lighting, Danielle's. So we have a spline ceiling in there now throughout the entire school, including the gymnasium, which we will not be replacing. We're just going to keep it open, and like in most gyms where you see the bar joist, I got the town fire marshal gave the approval for that. So that spline ceiling will come out of there. But then the entire school, all the ceilings coming out everywhere, all the classrooms, all the hallways. If we do take a walk there, take a walk in the space, you'll see those 12 by 12 spline ceilings, the tiles come out, you never get them back in. And if something,
Jigsaw puzzle.
it is. Well, you'll see when we take a walk.
And there is a point about a tour. I had asked Dr. Sunday at our meeting on Monday if he could set up a tour of the school, if anybody's interested in it, but we just got this presentation on Monday, and I just thought it was important to have it here. But I also, from my own, perspective, I wanted to
Absolutely.
get inside this building and see what it looks
Yeah,
like. So-
definitely.
So
That's
I'll,
great.
I'll make sure, and Teresa, maybe, if, once we get that schedule, if you could also, not only to the board members, but to the
Share
planning
with the
committee? Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's definitely worth a walk,
yeah.
if you haven't been in there or haven't been in there for years.
So this whole budget here is gonna come out of the grant, correct? Or is
Yeah,
this coming up?
well, there's stuff that's coming out of fiscal year '23, if you see.
So right now, the Board of Ed has had about a $1.5 million surplus. And so last month, we made about $800,000 of transfers into things we needed, school supplies that we needed. This, at Monday's meeting, we transferred about $225,000 to take care of some of those items that wouldn't come out of the ESSER grant.
Okay, so the wiring and the lighting, because all the lights that are on the spline ceiling are all face mounted, we gotta get rid of when they put the new drop ceiling in, then the lights will drop in. They don't have emergency lights in the classroom. These will all now have emergency lights. They'll all be LEDs. So throughout the whole school, our savings for the year for LEDs now will be close to 10 grand, it's like 9,000 and change. What we'd be saving just in the LEDs alone.
Who's laying out the light fixtures?
So the contractor Daniels has a electrical company that they work with.
I'm sure.
already have.
I'm sure, Pete, you could speak to this as well. I've been in several situations where literally the LED lights have come in and it's been too bright.
Oh, yeah.
They're put on
Depends,
dimmers
yeah.
and they don't move them past 50%
As-
because you just don't need as many lights.
If I
The-
remember correctly, I
The
think it
spread,
was
the
4 lights
broadcasting,
per
it's
classroom
tremendous.
that I saw on the print. I think it was 4 lights per classroom.
That sounds about right.
So, yeah, they're great. I have little strips in my garage, and it's like a football field when I put them on.
Yeah, yeah.
But they even sell, like Home Depot, they sell them now, and there's a switch where you can adjust the brightness. And there's like a 4-level switch, so.
Interesting.
So, again, in here is also all the furniture, copiers. They have supplies, they have everything, the painting. So the painting, the school is really in dire straits for paint. The classrooms are, which we'll see when we get there, pretty destroyed. A lot of peeling stuff going on. But just by the time they clear everything off the walls, get everything painted, patched and ready for paint. It's a huge painting project, I'll tell you that, which we'll see if, when we go there, you'll see what it's like.
Are they talking about practically having to scrape and skim coat the walls in order to get
It's
the paint to stick?
possible.
It might be a better way to go than trying to patch and do it
Yeah,
here and there.
yeah, just skip.
Spread the whole wall and prime and paint it.
The block in the hallways, it's got like that stipple paint on it, so everything's gotta be sanded.
And then get the spray on block filler and then spray the paint
Yeah.
on block filler.
Well, again, those are the painters, I'm not telling the painter what to do, but
I'm just saying, I know
I'm
there's
just
a way.
listening when
I
I'm
know
going
there's a
through
way.
it, and however they do it, but those are the numbers we have, and again, just, they're not set in stone just yet. But everything that we have on here definitely will give this place the uplift it needs. Because it's just been, since I've been here, they moved out of, when I first got here in 2014, the folks moved out and went to Soto. And then this company went in, so there's never been any uplift to that. So all the cameras are gonna be up, we'd only have 3 there right now. But there's no data going in there, there's no nothing. So it's like starting right from ground level again. And now we'll have all the cameras on the outside, all the lighting on the outside of the building will be updated, because it's a little bit gloomy. We're actually gonna install these sensors that will go on and kind of screen that you're trespassing. We put one on one other school, and we're by Benel, and it's loud. I don't know how that'll be, but there's a lot of activity that happens around, in the neighborhood down there at night, so.
Unless those cameras are gonna take care of that, correct?
Yes, and it will. So we're definitely going all out with all the cameras.
Like Mike
on
said,
the
on Maple
outside,
Bleachers
on the
too?
inside.
Yeah. And there'll be camera coverage in the classrooms as well,
No, not in the classrooms.
but hallways,
Hallways.
common spaces.
Yes,
Is more
yes.
what I meant.
Yeah. definitely. All the hallways, stairwells, I have cameras in the stairwell, so you're not hiding underneath one of them, or
Okay.
any place that you could possibly, kids could hide.
Well,
We got
well,
cameras.
Well, too, and given the profile of students and who we're looking to send in there, I'm sure within a classroom, under observation of an adult, there might be different personality traits that get exhibited in there as opposed to in the hallway.
And we definitely learned a lot of hiding spots between the two high schools now. Even the middle schools now, we definitely know where kids
Let
go.
the students be your experts.
Exactly.
Don't teach you.
And what I don't see on here is flooring. What?
So our flooring, actually, believe it or not, is not in bad shape there.
Okay.
Yeah, our floor is actually in good shape there.
Is it the old
It just
asbestos
never-
tile, or is it covered with carpet? Or?
There's some carpet in the classrooms, but our hallways and classrooms, once they get stripped and waxed, are in really good shape.
Okay, good.
Yeah. The one, because the school really, I mean, it's been used, but, since I've been here, but the amount of kids that were in that school for the program that Aspire had, the floors are in great shape once they strip and wax them.
But it was never fully mothballed where the building could like get stale.
No.
I think you were saying it transferred over as soon as
It
they
did pretty
left
much right
Aspire.
after.
Or
Yeah,
the program before
Yeah.
Aspire went in there.
yeah, yeah, because it was everyone left there, went to Soda, once Soda was built. So and I don't think it stayed empty very long, and then Aspire went right in there. So it's always been active. The town's been maintaining the boilers, and they've been maintaining whatever we need. Bathrooms and elevator, we have regular maintenance on the elevator there that we pay for, and stuff like that.
Teresa, do you have a copy of this?
I do,
Yeah,
thank
So
you.
you can send that out to the rest of the board as well?
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks. All right. Does anybody have any questions on?
Yeah, real quick, as the buildings are technically owned and operated and maintained by the town, has the mayor administration and that kind of side of the equation been informed of what's potentially going to be happening?
At this point, right now, it's with us.
Okay.
At this time, but it's not like it's hidden, but we wanted to get everybody, between the board and here and planning all up to speed with everything.
No, I understand we're on an incredibly
Yeah.
tight time frame, being that it's already June.
It
I'm
is.
I'm thinking, we had an angel watching over us in Color Break that we don't have to go through ed specs and run this through Hartford.
So
let's-
I actually have a
let's get it
meeting
done.
tomorrow with Heather and Aspire, talk about a timeline of them getting out. They'll be out for a little while, but you're not gonna start, get everybody running and say, come back in 3 weeks, because they'll be gone. So we're just looking at a hard start date, which hopefully by tomorrow we'll be able to find out when, and they gotta get all their stuff out of there.
And this is all internal stuff too? So that all the town owns the building, the internal?
Right now, I just want to make sure that kind of they know that we're coming. I know that in the past there have been some kind of communication lapses and communication gaps. Don't want to see that happen again. Rich, real quick, with regards to Danielle's, I see that you have in here that it's an estimated quote and that then will finalize with town approved vendor.
So he is an approved vendor with the town.
Okay,
He's on state bid,
okay.
state
good.
contract.
That'll be my next question.
Because I know, and I got them from the town. That's how I ended up
Okay.
getting kind of tied up with Danielle's. And he's done a lot of work for us.
Yes.
And he does not price out like typical contractors do, which is funny because he estimates by how long it's going to take, if that makes sense. He's going to paint the dais here for us in white. And I've had Ferraro's.
Yep.
And his price, he just did some work inside the superintendent's office, and everything comes out great. The time I've had to deal with it, it's been great.
Yeah, I think he has a very kind of small, experienced, trusted labor force, and he'll pursue work and do what he can where he wants with his guys.
Exactly.
He's not looking to double the size of his company and
But he,
take
no,
risks
he's
and get
not,
too
but
busy.
he,
He's
but he also brings in enough help to do the job.
right. He does what he says he can do.
Yeah. And that's one thing, and if he doesn't, if something doesn't go right, he's just not gonna charge you for it. And, you know.
He's an
so
old school contractor.
He's an old school contractor. That's exactly what he is. But he stands up for everything that he tells you he's gonna do. He does, or he's doing beyond. He's great to deal with, absolutely great.
So the hope is that, and I think during the presentation on Monday, Ms. Boyer said that the hope was that they would be, you guys would be ready for them at the start of the school year.
Again, that's gonna depend on what we come up with, a start date. Frank is giving me 6 weeks from start to finish. But again, it depends on when we can get in there.
And the ESSER funds are readily available? You have access to them as
We
you
do.
can apply them to the program?
We do. Kevin already
Perfect.
talked with the state that we can
So
take
is
this
there a date
money.
that these people have to get out of the building?
Yeah, well, they're moving out, right? So their kids are still in there. Their kids stay in a little longer, their students, than what our folks do. So tomorrow, when I have the phone call with Heather and the principal down there, we'll find out exactly when we can 100% get in, because I need everybody out. The first part of this project is the ceiling coming out.
Yeah.
I can't have anybody in any part of the building when the ceiling comes out. So, we'll find out tomorrow exactly when hopefully I'll have a hard start tomorrow. But yeah, it's a short time frame.
You're busy.
Yeah.
No vacation for you.
I was just gonna say that. I got 3 days I gotta eat up or I lose it. I don't even know if I can, I don't even, can't even take it. But, that's where we are. You know, if anybody's got any questions, we can hash right through it.
Do you want to go, so the next part would be just your facilities report, is there anything else
So,
going on?
yeah, I mean, this time of the year is go time. This has been eating up a lot of my time, along with getting projects lined up for the summer. Again, we're putting in HVAC in Lordship's library, media room in there. We got HVAC going into 2 IDF closets at Franklin. I'm having Universal, who is an approved contractor with the town, price me out HVAC for Worcester and over at Wilcoxon. Whole new units. Just a host of things. My guys getting their product, finally got everything all scheduled with the vendor to get all their product ready to go for summer, strip and waxing, or whether it's a rubber floor that they gotta maintain. Purchasing some different equipment if we can, small stuff. It's just, it's insane, the days just, there's not enough time. And then the smoke is coming down from Canada, which is killing us. So, it's just been it's a crazy time of the year right now. I just, the end of the school year, it's just, everybody's running in different directions. Don't look down, you're gonna run into somebody.
So that's it?
That's it.
Okay, well, anybody, any questions, anything for Rich? All right, well, you can hang out, or you can go, it's up to you.
No, I got ways.
Alan, you want to go building needs?
Sure. Actually, Rich, this might end up becoming an action item for you, but building needs met on Monday night, and there were 2 invoices from off of Stratford High, and it looks like they were for the indoor batting cage. And it looks like there's just a matter of the purchase order for the work either needs to come from here.
It doesn't come from here.
Okay, then it's a town site
So
thing, and I'll
John
get it taken
Casey,
care
because I was trying to get a hold of John. Tony D'Angelo had said to me, hey, this batting cage isn't working right. I says, okay. I wasn't part of the project, that
Right.
project. So I says, let's go over, we'll see what it is. It needed the electrical. The company that installed it put a temporary wiring in. And I said, well, that's not good. Here's the wiring is sitting there, and that's left up in the ceiling, all coiled up. They never hooked it up, so I called NS Electric. They came out, I lent them my lift. They wired it. It wasn't a lot of money, it was $175, so I paid for it. But then I find out that the batting cage guy was never paid. And NS had gotten approval
to put in an outlet to power it.
to power it, and everything, it was all there, but the town somewheres, it got hung up. Yeah. So I had just said, John Casey, I was like,
I'll work with them then and
Yeah.
get it buttoned up. Just an interesting little side story. I'm sure Pete, to get the thing commissioned and started up to prove that it worked, they did the temporary connection. And then obviously it needs the real plug-in electric so that as it's used and not used, it can
Yeah.
get put away.
they had a switch with the key. And then Tony's sending me a picture. It looked like the, the job lights.
Yeah.
Just, that's what the hell is that? So I go there and I went, well, that's not right.
Yeah. We bought the complete scope and made arrangements for the complete scope of work to be done. It's just whenever
Yeah.
that vendor's guys were there, they temp wired it
Yeah.
up, got all the bells and whistles going, proved that it, sets itself up and puts itself away, and then they left. So the other thing that we worked on Monday night was we put through, and I believe this will go to town council with field recommendation because the amount was the work for New England Yankee construction over at the Stratford Academy Johnson House for that floor abatement project. It's one of the ones that Brian Snyder's
That Brian
working on,
Snyder's working
and
on.
literally, I think he got the release on that
He did.
either Friday or Monday.
There and Benel. He's good to go on both schools now.
Okay, so then
And I
Benel,
just saw the email today. come
but,
through.
so then, yeah, Benel will be a special meeting to get that approved,
Right.
hopefully before Monday night's council meeting. And then the one kind of thing that's still up in the air with both of those projects is the availability of material.
Correct. It's a good possibility that they'll get abated, but they'll stay concrete floors for the school year, which happened the year previous. So we've already gone through a whole school year with just a concrete floor, which is brand new, once they shot blast the floor. It looks great. But you could, like going into Home Depot, that's what it'd be like looking at the floor at Home Depot. I even suggested we stay in the floor and don't put any rubber down.
You know how to maintain concrete, I take it.
To look at falls.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I want to bring up is that, and get this into the minutes because it's probably more of like a full board discussion and possibly may involve Dr. Sunda and the administration. But the town would like to move forward with the final grant application for Stratford High School. And so that's Form SCG 049F. You guys at the Board of Ed here just approved 2 of them in the last month. One was for the photovoltaic, I believe at Benel, and the other was for the photovoltaic at Stratford Academy Johnson House. So it's just a matter of going through that same process with Stratford High and getting that documentation and paperwork put together. And I believe that's the last piece of paperwork that needs to come from the Board of Ed side to get Stratford High complete.
Yeah, we actually have a kickoff meeting next week
For what's
for
gonna
the
be,
solar.
oh, okay.
So we do, and that's what, just for the work that's completed and?
It basically just states that the project's complete, the space is in use.
So we have our typical meeting, which is the 4th Monday of the month of June, whatever day that is. So if you guys just forward it to Teresa or
Okay.
Andrea or
Yeah.
whatever, and I'm sure they can get it onto our agenda if there's some action we need to take.
Alright, I'm just taking the last look here. And I think that pretty much covers what I had from the town side with the Building Needs Committee, so if anybody has questions?
I have a question, Rich. Where are we with the air conditioning issues that were at, say, Stratford High School? Have they been resolved?
So we're actually, it's a good question because the 21st of this month, from the 21st to the 23rd, they have a company coming in replacing compressors. The town has been scheduling all that on the public works side. But I do know on the 21st of this month to the 23rd, they'll be at Stratford High replacing all the compressors and doing whatever study they're doing with it.
And that should do it?
That's what we're hoping.
Did anybody go after engineer or architect?
Again, that's all through the town, so I can't speak to what they're
I'm
doing.
just saying, it's a brand new school and.
Yeah,
But
You design this
yes,
building, you have engineers, you have people that are supposed to know what the hell they're doing here.
the answer to that question is yes, and that's why people who know the details of what's going on won't divulge them. because of what may happen in other proceedings, discussions, negotiations.
There's action being taken.
Okay, so,
Yes, exactly what you're talking about.
okay, so the
is
town's not
underway.
gonna eat that again because,
Yes.
okay, this,
Yeah, It's in the legal channel.
okay, that's all I want to make sure the town has no responsibility to this. That
Absolutely.
your architect, your engineers, all these people,
So
what the hell are we paying you for?
we delayed the acceptance of the complete HVAC system
Right.
until the commissioning could get done and done the right way with all the equipment functioning. So that question mark basically lingered out there on the classroom building for what, 2.5, 3 years?
Yeah.
So we tried to protect ourselves, in my opinion, to the best that we possibly could by not accepting a system that wasn't done, and not just not done, but hadn't been commissioned and put through its paces. So therein is kind of where maneuvering started to happen.
Okay.
All right, is that it on that? Okay, so a couple things. Next is the enrollment demographic building reports. We've been talking about the demographics and the redistricting. One of the things we did at our last meeting was in this $890,000 transfer we did, which was nice because it was all part of our surplus. We funded the demographic redistricting study. It was about $95,000. There's an outside company that's on the state approval list or whatever it is, so it doesn't need to go out to RFP or RFQ or whatever it might be. So I think Dr. Sunday was in the process of discussions with those people, mentioned that, you know, it was our hope and belief that it was within our purview to be involved in that process. So as that information becomes available, hopefully we'll have it. I'd like if everybody could. Typically we don't meet in July, I don't think, but if something comes up that needs to be expedited, we can have some type of special meeting so that we're at least a part of it and it doesn't sit for the summer if it's some type of a time.
Exactly, for a whole year we've been trying to get this done.
Well, it's in the works now.
No, I know.
And I understand your frustration.
I appreciate that, like you just said, you know, first day I was in here, they were talking about it,
Yeah.
school year's over.
Yeah, I agree. We did, so one of the things I did also ask, we asked at our board meeting, and Teresa, I don't think it was in the email, but it's just the capacity, the school building capacity. So a lot of this stuff, I think at this point, I mean, if you guys want to ask questions, but I think it's, you know, it'd be good to take some of this stuff home and just digest it and become informed, so when we get into this redistricting, demographics, whatever it might be, we're aware of that information. But there's some interesting information here, I thought, with the capacity. Some of the schools are, you know, almost half full, you know, based on the numbers. So I think there's room for shifting. Bunnell was one I was surprised that, 400 students we're only at about 66% capacity at Bunnell. Lordship, again, so there's some room in our question, which we got into way back in the beginning, was with the 6th grade. Is that something we want to do? I mean, this can give us some enlightenment as to, a possibility of some of that happening. But I think it's just good information to have. And I do have somewhere, and I think I mentioned the square footage report of all the buildings. Just, I'll see if I can dig it out.
And can you also, Mike, if you have that report, can you find out exactly what the state requirements are? To say how many kids can go in each classroom, or how many square footage you need to get kids in there?
So I think the classroom is based on the teacher contract, right? The kids in the classroom
For the amount.
is based on teacher contract. But yeah, we can see if there's any other state.
Yeah, and regulations, how big the room has to be for how many kids got to go in there.
Yeah,
20 kids, if you have 30 kids, or whatever it is,
yeah.
I also just want to point out that some of this, like on a slip of paper like this, can be a little deceiving. Just for instance, I have a friend whose kids go to Wilcoxon School. The current capacity is 438. The enrollment as of this year was 361, and that sounds like, oh, we could stick some more kids in there. But actually, like for instance, their music room is in the front vestibule of the school where kids are supposed to be able to enter, but they can't enter there because that's where their music class is, and it's just a vestibule. So it's not capable really of holding any more kids
That Wilcox.
Yeah, that was just one for instance, and so I'm like looking at this list, but you wouldn't necessarily know that unless you had a friend at Wilcoxon, or you were at Wilcoxon, or you're rich, you know, so I just thought
Good
I'd
point.
mention it.
Okay. And Pete, too, I was just reading through the middle column where it says current capacity. There's a state statute there that details some of, I would guess, I haven't looked at that state statute, and it says that there's a school facilities survey that's filed with state. So there might be some information if you Google that
Okay.
as well. But yeah, Teresa, if any of that is available.
I will see, and I know that we checked in with the state last on that building capacity and classroom sizes. They had not done a current one,
Okay.
but we can see what we can pull.
Okay, yeah, any information. And then the enrollment report, which is here. We get these at our board meetings on a monthly basis. It kind of goes through just some of the different schools, the capacities, the enrollment's been kind of steady, it goes up and down a little bit. Ms. Borges has done a great job with bringing a lot of our kids who are out of district, which created a big savings for us. If we got to ship these kids out of district, it costs us a lot of money. Creating programs here in town to bring those kids back, which created some savings. But those numbers go up and down, they fluctuate. But just, you guys can go through, look at it. If you got any questions, if you have any now, I can maybe try to answer them. But they're basically just numbers, and some of the line items aren't detailed, what each of those are. And so we've been trying to get a little more clarity from Ms. Mangini on just understanding, what those line items might mean if there's a special notation or use form or whatever. So we're hoping to get it clarified a little. But again, it's just a good number to have and to watch it. But the trends, I think, have stayed pretty steady throughout the year, typical of any other year. There's been no great surprises, I don't think. So. Does anybody have any other questions? Any old business? Any questions on any of this stuff we have here?
Mike, I just want to say, I went to an event at the Flood Junior High the other day, had the awards, my granddaughter was in an award over there. I don't know who the SRO is, but she was exceptional.
Yeah.
I have to tell you, not only was she a police officer, she had to be a medic. Somebody came up the aisle there bleeding from their nose or whatever. She went outside and took care of it. While she's out there, some parents are holding a little kid who throws up all over the aisle, all over the chair. The guy comes back in, there's no, I don't know where the custodian was. She probably cleaned the building, but she went out there, got spray, whatever. She cleaned the chairs, she cleaned the teeth. I said, you're a custodian, you're a medic, you're a police officer, whatever. Absolutely, I want to just say,
McAvoy, Mr.
I said to her, you deserve 3 times your pay tonight, whatever. I was impressed. I don't go to schools all the time, except drop the kids off in the morning, but that was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I thought exceptional.
Yeah.
I was really impressed. I was very proud to. And I told her that going out the building, you deserve 3 times your pay tonight. Really, it's unbelievable. There was only one, and the place was packed. There were maybe 3 or 4 seats. That never saw the school like that. I've been to many events over here, but unbelievable.
Yeah.
Really, really nice. Just want to make note of that, just so.
I think on both sides, both on the town side and the board side, we have some tremendous employees here in town.
Yeah, police officer. It was unbelievable.
Between our cops, between our firemen, between our teachers. We have a very dedicated, and to me, Stratford is made up of very proud people, that are proud of their town.
Yeah,
I know I'm
absolutely.
one of them, but I think the people who work here are proud to be a part of Stratford and the community.
Yeah.
So, and I think, to your point, that the woman who did that, I think she's proud of what she does, and she,
Absolutely.
takes pride in what
Absolutely. I was
she
very
does.
impressed.
Yeah.
Very impressed with her.
Yeah, thanks. Well, maybe we can make sure she knows that she was, her efforts were recognized.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, does anybody have anything else? Okay. Well, if we don't see you, so anyway, take this stuff, you guys, we've gotten a whole bunch of different reports and, digest it, and, because that's gonna be, I think that's gonna be our big chore coming up is this redistricting, this, and what we do with the schools. Do we do 6th grade? Hopefully that'll be a part of that. And again, what I said back in the beginning, moving 6th grade might be, no, it doesn't, but I think we owe it to ourselves to at least get that answer. And well, I think all the other times they've gone down that route, they've stopped because of conflicts or confrontation or issues.
There will be, no matter.
It will, but I think we should have that answer first. Is it something we want to do?
Exactly.
And then if it is, then let's tackle the challenges as they come, not let's start it and then run into some conflicts and not have the real answers as to whether or not we want to do it and then stop because of the conflicts.
No, I know there's no meeting in July unless there's a, a special meeting.
Sure.
When do we meet again, August or September?
It would be the first week of August.
Okay,
Yeah. I think, right, Teresa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
No, typically, none of the board committees meet in July.
That's what I'm just saying.
It's perfect, Rich will be able to update on all the work he's gonna get done.
He'll have a nice big report.
Probably
Oh
won't.
my God, you'll have a month to go yet.
I can tell you what'll be happening in July, for the month of July.
Is it August 3rd? Okay. I might not be here then. Maybe we'll have to push it off a week further.
And then I won't be here, but you're co-chair
You won't be there for the next one?
for the next week.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens over this next month, what happens with this report. As Dr. Sunday was in negotiations or in discussions with the company who's going to do the report, so hopefully he'll come to us with some information, whether it's via email, and if there's any action we need to take, we can work our schedule around that. All right, well, thanks for coming, everybody. Take
Thank you.
a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Ms. Reynolds, seconded by Mr. Carroll. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously.